What is up, guys? It's Zach. Welcome back to another podcast episode on the way. Zoe, what are you thinking about right now?
That I'm looking at a camera. That's what I'm thinking. But actually, I'm looking at you. So hello and welcome back to our podcast.
Yes, I'm so excited for this episode. Zoe and I are going to be introducing a very special guest.
Very special.
Today, we have Bobby Gruenewald on. Did I say that right?
You said it right.
Yes.
It's impressive.
Welcome, Bobby. Give him a little round of
I already
applause.
started clapping.
Hey, we are so blessed to have you here, and we're just going to hear a little bit about your story, get to know you a little bit, and celebrate what the Lord has done through your life. I'm really, really excited. Let's roll the credits and get into the episode. Yeah. Fire. All right, there we go. Intro done.
Was that super random?
That was my, I said I was going to do a super random intro. My random bit was asking Zoe what she was thinking about right now.
Yeah, I was caught off guard, to be honest. But that's what I was thinking of.
I'm glad we could start it in a
But it
super
was
random
an
way.
honest answer, though.
Yeah.
It was an honest answer.
Looking at a camera.
That's right. Honesty is key.
It's true. That's why.
That's what?
That's why
That's
we
what.
would love to hear about your story, Bobby.
Ooh.
Honestly.
Honestly, we would love to hear your story. Bobby, the Lord has done so much with you, particularly around the YouVersion Bible app. As far as I understand, have you played a major role in starting that, or did you actually pioneer that just yourself?
So definitely wouldn't say just myself, but the vision for it came to me first. And so I was, I can tell you more about the whole story behind it. But yeah, I started it back in 2007, was the website, 2008 was the app.
Wow.
And
And it's now on a billion downloads. It's just reached a billion
devices,
downloads.
yeah.
Praise the Lord.
Crazy.
Praise the Lord. People want to read the Bible.
Yeah, no,
That's
it's a
awesome.
humbling thing to be a part of. But I say I started it, but the reality was God used multiple people, and obviously we have an amazing team that He's used. So I don't write code, so I've not written a line of code in the
Really?
Bible app. Nope.
Wow.
So I just have kind of an idea and a vision for it, and God kind of brought all the right people.
Wow. Okay, well, hey, we're going to get into all the things that are happening right now that are exciting that the Lord is doing with you and through you. But I'm really curious. I think our audience probably is as well. How did that idea of the Bible app first come to you, looking back on it now, a billion downloads? That's obviously a really awesome idea that came to fruition. How did you kind of come up with that?
Yeah, well, it started actually in an airport security line, like a TSA security line in Chicago back in 2006. It was in October. October 2006. So I was in this long security line, one of these lines that just kind of goes back and forth, and then you turn the corner and realize there's a whole nother room with people in it. So like you think you're through it, and you're not even through it. And normally I would be really frustrated because I don't really have a lot of patience, it seems like, for times like that. But for whatever reason, that particular day, I was asking myself this question. I was like, I wonder if there's a way to use technology to help me read the Bible more consistently. I was a below average, or at least I felt like I was a below average Bible reader, somebody that wanted to have it a part of my everyday life, but man, I just did not have the right rhythms and looking. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of excuses, and people are like, "Hey, you could just be more disciplined, or you could just do it." But for whatever reason, I just felt like maybe technology could help me. So I had this idea. This predated apps. So 2006 was before the App Store, before
this was in
apps.
2006.
Yeah, 2006.
Wow.
So the original idea was not for an app. The original idea was for a website.
Whoa.
And the concept back then was, it was called Web 2.0. It was back where people were using the internet to be contributors, like to make blog posts, to put stuff that's familiar to everybody today. But back then that was like a new concept. Like you
Right.
could be your own publisher. You could have your own podcast, that
Mm.
sort of thing. And so I said, I want to make a website that let anybody take any kind of media, any video, any photo, any blog post, and associate it with any verse or passage or series of verses in the
Whoa.
Bible, because I thought people could tell their story about how God's word
Right.
was like being lived out in their life. So I had this idea. I hadn't seen a website that had done that before. I wanted to be free because I felt like that was also important to have it be free. And then I came up with the best name that I could come up with for it at the airport that day. So the name YouVersion is literally just the best name I came up with at the airport, from the security line to the gate.
Wow.
And
You came up with the name YouVersion on that.
on that day,
That day, wow.
and I an activator. So I actually registered the domain name YouVersion.com before I got
No
on the
way.
airplane that day.
Wow, so that was a really
Which is the
brief
only reason I
turnaround.
know what date it was that I was in the airport, because you could go look on the
Right,
domain
right.
registration and see
Yeah.
the date that it was registered. And so that's how it actually started, but very few people know that it was a website, because the website failed. Like, we put all kinds of work
Wait,
into it.
what?
Yeah, no, it's a crazy story. So the first problem we had was, I knew we wanted to build this website. We had no money, no resources. I was part of a church, still am, and YouVersion's a part of a ministry of a church called Life Church. But at that time, Life Church had no like extra resources to finances. So with the permission of the leaders, I could start it. But that meant I was like blessed to do it, but there's no budget. That's kind of
Right,
what that meant, which was not a big deal, because that's sort of the way everything was, back then. And so I had to just kind of bring the vision to people and say, look, could you contribute your time, or could you help me code this or design this? And so it was very much a kind of a side project kind of thing that was going on. And the first problem we had was we actually needed permission to put the Bible on the website. And most people might be confused by that. I had no idea that people own the Bible. That's how ignorant that I was. I kind of was like, this book it's thousands of years
Wait,
old.
what do you mean people own the
It's a
Bible?
great question. Like, so the modern translations that you and I read of scripture, like in English, someone paid money to have those translations completed. So a publisher or Bible Society or different groups. And it's not insignificant. Like, they get theologians and just people that are just really good at study and understand the original text, that carefully translate the Bible. And it's a process that takes like a long time, years to do a really
That
good
makes sense.
translation. Yeah. I just didn't even think about that, at the time. And then, of course, those publishers, some of them are for profit and some of them are charities or not for profit. But at that time, almost all of them, not all, but almost all of them needed royalties from selling Bibles to help pay and offset the costs, of the translation costs, which made total sense. It's just that I was wanting the the website to be free.
Yeah.
And so I needed, and we didn't have any money. So I basically needed a free license to give away for free to as many people as possible, which was not really a very compelling business argument, to make. And so that was the first problem, is we had no idea how to get permission. Like, I tried calling, but it's like hard to go through the front desk of these big companies try to get permission. So it's kind of a crazy story. I'll tell you the very short version of it. But basically, I put out a blog post that announced we were going to start the website. This is in 2007. And it was in, I think, June of 2007. And I announced it internally as like, well, the goal is to get it done in September. The problem was we had nobody to work on it. We had no permission. So it was one of these things where it's kind of crazy. We literally took a picture of a drawing of the website and we put it on the blog post and made it sound like it's all happening and it's coming. And the team looks at me like I'm crazy, because they're like, what are you saying? Like, we don't have permission. We don't have any of these things. But God used that blog post to have a guy that I've never met before at the time in Florida saw the blog post. He called me, wanted to talk to me about it. I told him all about it. He calls another guy that's in our hometown in Oklahoma City. His name's Mark Green, and tells Mart about it. Mark gives me a call. So it's like this whole thing where I
Wow.
write the blog post, a guy in Florida sees it, calls the guy in Oklahoma City, the guy in Oklahoma City calls me. This happens like a week or two later. And he starts asking me a lot of questions about it. I knew of Mark Green, but I'd never met Mark Green. Mark Green is part of a family that owns a bunch of stores called Hobby Lobby in the United States. And he also owned a chain of Christian bookstores that was like about the largest in the United States.
Interesting.
And so Mart says, how can I help you? And I said, I don't know. I don't have permission to use the Bible. That's the first problem. And he says, well, we buy a lot of Bibles from these publishers, so I can at least make an introduction to these companies. And so he didn't just make an introduction. He introduced me to the CEOs of every one of these Bible publishing companies, all of them. So literally probably the best contact in the entire world that I could have had help me, God used the blog post to introduce him to me.
Wow.
And so, yeah, he made introductions and he said, man, I can't promise you that they'll say yes, but I can at least like get you, kind of in the door. So I had meetings with all of them, and I wish I could tell you that they did say yes. Actually, most all of them said the Christian version of no, which is we'll pray about it.
That's the worst.
Yeah. And so, but that's just, I'd been told no many times in my life. I was an entrepreneur before all of this.
Okay.
And so but God did have one that said yes, and that was all we needed to start. So we started the website, and it launched in September 2007. And like I mentioned before, it failed. So we put all this work into it. I got people to volunteer their time. We kind of just really a lot of vision around it. God came through on the Bible translations, all the, like all these things happened. So it seemed like everything was going great. And then we even had a big conference that promoted it for free and told everybody at the conference to go visit the website. So we had probably 20 or 30,000 people that visited the website in the first couple of months.
Wow.
But they weren't coming back. And they would go check it out, not come back. We would use the website, but honestly, we were just using it personally because we created it and not because it was like naturally helping us connect with Scripture. And so I'm not afraid to start things that fail, and certainly not afraid to shut them down if they fail. So by December, I thought, this isn't working, and we need to put our energy on something that works. And so acknowledge that it failed, but I always want to learn, like, why did it fail and what can we learn from it? So we went through and started to list out the things that we think or why it failed. And one of those things on the list was we felt like not having the Bible with us wherever we were was one of the factors we were missing, on it.
Interesting.
And at that point in time, it's hard for people probably watching or listening to this to imagine this, but a computer with a website was something that sat on your desk. It was not a laptop. It wasn't portable. It literally was called a desktop because that's where it sat. But we had a smartphone, and at that time, it was the very beginnings of smartphone kind of revolution. It was before app stores, but the smartphone that was predominant was from your country, Canada, the BlackBerry.
Come on,
That's
BlackBerry.
right. Yeah. And so like almost everybody had a BlackBerry, and they were called crackberries because they were like addictive. They had a little keyboard on them, and people called them a crackberry.
I was trying to figure out why you said crackberry. And I was like, oh my goodness.
Was the screen cracked? No.
Yeah. That's how they. Yeah, it can mean a lot of things, but that's what it meant. That's what it meant. So anyway, and so
they are
we
addictive,
said,
though.
we said, what if we just displayed the Bible simply to work on the small screen of a BlackBerry?
Right.
Wow.
And it was profound. This was now early 2008, and it was profound how that actually changed how we engaged in the Bible. It was just like, it was kind of like we would just stay connected to Scripture in places we'd never even thought about it before. And so, and the traffic to the website started to go up from people using their BlackBerries to access it because we'd kind of designed it to work with it. And so it was really kind of profound. And honestly, I didn't expect it to work. Like I was just thinking, man, it's just so small, and I just don't know. And then Steve Jobs, this is now early 2008. So Steve Jobs comes out and announces something called an app store, and the fact that you could now build apps, or going to be able to build apps for the iPhone. So the iPhone had come, and most people don't know this. iPhone first came out and it didn't have an app store, and you couldn't download apps. Like it just came with a default set of apps that were on it from Apple.
Oh,
And so for like the first year, that's all you could do with the iPhone. I mean, it was still revolutionary, touchscreen,
right.
all that kind of stuff. But the App Store became kind of the real, innovation, and that came in 2008. So anyway, we thought we should try to build an app,
Yeah.
for the iPhone based on this announcement. The problem was that nobody in our team knew how to build an app, and we found a 19-year-old who loved Apple, and those are about the
No.
only two things back then you had to do is be 19 and love Apple to build an app. And so as a part-time project, like nights and weekends, we worked together to build the first Bible app
Wow.
and submitted to Apple. This is now June of 2008 when we submitted it to them. We honestly didn't know if they would include it in the store. Like it was like, it's a Bible. I have no idea if they're going to go for this and like would they want to do it. And so when the App Store launched July 10th, 2008, the Bible app was in the App Store on the first day. And there was only 200 free apps that were available in the
What?
App Store, which is exactly what we said. We're like, what? I mean, like we thought there would be, I don't know, I just thought there'd be thousands of apps.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
makes
just because
sense.
it's like, why wouldn't everybody be building apps and
Yeah.
trying to get in the store? I just think it happened so fast that people didn't move fast enough, like companies, didn't move fast enough to build apps. And I don't think people really knew how big it would become at that time. We didn't know how big it would become.
Right.
But because of that, there were all kinds of people who downloaded the Bible app. In fact, 83,000 people installed it in the first weekend. And it blew our minds. Like we would never have even thought that'd be possible like in a year, let alone like just a weekend. But it was, clear that God was doing something unexpected. And even more importantly is that we had analytics or the ability to see data of usage, and we could just see that collectively people were opening it. They were not just downloading it, but opening it, some cases multiple times a day. So these, many times in my life I've seen not quite like this, but I've seen God do things that are unexpected, obviously. And I've just learned that whenever you see God do something like that, you just have to figure out how to get behind what he's doing. And it was one of those points where I was like, okay, this is a moment we're supposed to put whatever we've got behind this. And again, we didn't have a lot of resources financially or even people-wise. But that Monday after that weekend, I told the 19-year-old, I was like, I don't know what you were working on before, but this is now like your full-time job. Like you got to this is it. I think he was like working on Christian camp registration websites or something for the church, for the youth or whatever. It's like, we'll find somebody else to do that. Like, this is what you need to do. And that was how it began.
Do you still know that 19-year-old?
I still know him. He's not on the team. He went on and worked at Twitter and in multiple other places. Great guy, and God used him kind of at a really, kind of obviously super cool time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a crazy story of what God's done. Then of course, since then, God's just been continuing to do incredible things.
I'm really curious to hear about how you felt confident enough to start that website. You briefly mentioned that you were an entrepreneur before. How did that factor into you having like the knowledge that you're like, okay, well, I have these skills, these giftings, I'm going to use them to build God's kingdom? Yeah.
That's a great question. I don't know that I've ever been very confident. I think,
Interesting.
let me kind of back up and I'll tell you kind of, I've seen God do too many things to like not have confidence in him. And it started when, like I was very fortunate. I grew up in a family that went to church and brought me to church. But I wasn't a follower of Jesus until between my 8th and 9th grade years in school. I don't know how the years work here in the UK, but it's
13, 14.
It'd be about that, about 14 years old. Yeah. And it was like one of these profound, like huge changes in my life, like just who I was when I was at school the year before. It was during the summer, which is our break, and who I came back to school. And in the U.S., it's high school. I was entering as a freshman in high school, and I was just a different person. Had the same friends, but I was very different. And I wanted to reach my friends. I wanted to tell them about Jesus. And I didn't know if I had the right vocabulary for it, but that's what I wanted to do. And I just didn't think my friends would listen to me talk about Jesus. And so I had this idea to write a rap song because all of my friends
Okay.
listen to rap music.
No
So
way.
smart.
Yeah. And the crazy thing about it was like I had never written a rap song in my life. It sounds just ridiculous, to say it, but I felt like that was what I was supposed to do. And so I did it. And then God has kind of a sense of humor, but then I went on to become a Christian rapper for 5 years.
No way.
No, you
Yeah.
didn't.
And we
Do you
traveled.
remember any of the bars from that first?
Yeah, I
Like,
do.
could you give us a line or
I-
two?
I don't know. This is from the 1990s, like this is
That's
like
awesome.
ancient old, like it would just be pretty much embarrassing. Yeah. But yeah, no, I could do a tiny bit, I'll do it for you just for fun. But I don't know if I've ever done it sitting down. So but I'll try it.
Okay.
I'm like sitting back, but
Do you need
anyway,
a beat?
yeah.
Like
no,
Zoe
no,
can
no,
lay
it's
down a
okay.
beat
It's
for
all
you.
right. It's all right. It's all good.
I was ready.
Yeah.
She wants to.
It's like probably more. I'll probably embarrass myself doing this, but here I'll try. Anyway, I'll do it really quick. Well, I'm not on a mission across the ocean, just letting the world around me see my devotion to Christ. You see, it's not what I say, but it's how I walk and live my life every day. Because I'm on a mission and my feels right here, styling the truth to your ears. So don't just hear all the words, but listen to my heart. Because we've got to start showing hope, world, the love of Jesus Christ by each and every day, living's love in our life. So many people are searching for the truth, but they never find it because we hide it inside of us. It's time to let your light shine out because it's the love of Jesus Christ that it's all about. So that if you've gone dim, it's time to get bright because whoever finds God in you finds life.
Hey,
my
that was
goodness.
sick. Oh my God.
That is
That is
crazy.
crazy.
But that is
Wait, and you actually turned into a rapper then for 5 years?
Oh yeah. No, it was a ministry. Like we traveled all over the US and
No.
I can see
Oh,
why.
yeah.
You're great at that.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I was
Amazing.
I would have bought a
I-
ticket to that for
Me
sure.
too.
Yeah, that's probably the only rap I know how to do today. But
That's awesome.
but we had
That
it
was
was
so good.
but it was such a God thing because you look back and go, man, I didn't know how to rap. I didn't like
Wow.
God just opened doors and looking back on it, I didn't even know this, but like it was such a great leadership experience trying to
Wow.
lead. We had 15 people that traveled with us and they were all like my age. And so that meant just even getting along, like on the road, like learning how to lead all that, was just a big experience. And throughout my life, I would say that every single thing that God's done, you can look back on it and say, God's used this to shape who I am, that then gives me kind of the tools or the experiences that I need to do the next thing, right, that he calls me to do. So it's not really confidence in my abilities, but it's probably just confidence in like God's calling and God, like where God calls
Wow.
me, that I would say is the answer.
That's amazing.
Because I didn't even plan to be an entrepreneur. So I went from I was a Christian rapper. And then when I went to university, I really felt like God was wanting me to study business. And what was that's pretty common and normal, except for the fact that there were people in my life that thought, man, because you're already in ministry, like with this rap ministry, that God surely is going to call me into like theology or religion or some,
right.
a degree that makes sense. So feeling like you're called into business actually felt like I was making a decision that was contrary to the expectations that like people around me had
Wow, yeah.
and people I trust. But if you feel like it's what God's leading you to do, like you don't have really a choice, right? That's what you're supposed to do. But it wasn't easy because it felt like I had to kind of basically go against expectations others had, on me. But I didn't know why. I was like, I'm supposed to study business. It wasn't about money or it wasn't about trying to like, that wasn't the purpose. Anyway, so I'm studying business, studying finance. I think that I'm going to go into like investment banking or some kind of financial planning thing. I had kind of a gifting for just the way I think about finances and all that. So I thought maybe this is what I'm supposed to do. Instead, God has a different plan. I start working at an automobile dealership, not selling cars, but just in the back office. And anyway, I took the job just for date money so that I could date who now is my wife at the time. I had no money. And it was about, I think that it paid like $6 an hour. And so I was bored. It was like one of these jobs where like you get done with it and just have nothing to do. You're just sitting there watching the clock. And I started listening into the car things in the back office. And one time this group from California comes in and pitches the car dealership on a website, like building them a website. This is in 1995. So it's hard for probably anybody that's listening to this to know, but 1995 is like so early on in the internet, like nobody had websites and it was just really early. Then I remember they wanted $2,200 to build a website. And so I walked up to the owner of the car dealership. I overheard the meeting. I wasn't in the meeting. I just like heard it. I walked up to the owner. I said, "Mr. Bailey," I said, "if you'll let me build a website for you, I'll do it for $100. And he just looks at me like, "Sure," you know. And the problem was I had absolutely no idea how to build a website. I'm a finance major. I've never built a website. There was no books on how to build websites or even websites on how to build websites, back then. So I went and found this guy in the dorms down the hall from me. He always had his lights out all night, and he was always like this internet underground kind of guy that just was like a hacker or something. I don't know. And so I just went in and talked to him, and he gave me kind of some tips on what I need to do. So anyway, I went on and built the website for him. They liked it. And then I said, we should build a different kind of website because you're not going to sell cars in 1995 on the internet. So we built a website selling car parts and accessories for Honda cars called hondaparts.com. And within a few months, the owner of the car dealership was making hundreds of thousands of dollars from this website.
Whoa.
What?
And he calls me into his office, and he's a Christian businessman.
Oh, wow.
He calls me in his office and he said, "What do you plan on doing in life?" And before I could answer, he goes, "Whatever it is you're going to do," he goes, "I want to invest in it." And so I realized this was one of those moments where God was giving me an opportunity that was unexpected. Like I'd never thought of myself as an entrepreneur, but God used a Christian businessman to see something in me that I didn't see kind of in myself. And so to make a long story short, that was how I got started as an entrepreneur. I had an investor before I had an idea.
Wow.
And I went and put together a business plan, started what's called a web hosting company. So all we did was just host websites. That was our first business. And then sold it, started another company that was the largest professional wrestling website. And I know it's the most eclectic life you've ever heard. Like it's so random. Yeah.
That is really random.
Really random. But all the randomness, God, I really do believe orchestrated when you look back on it. So we had this online community. We had an office in New York City, an office in Oklahoma City, and then we sold it in 1999 to a company that Goldman Sachs took public. We sold it to a company in San Francisco that was a gaming company that did kind of have a property called IGN.com, which is a game review, does video game reviews.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, so we sold it, and I thought this is what God designed me to do. He designed me to start and sell companies. I was 23 at that time, and I had already sold 2 companies. And so I thought, man, I have favor in this. This must be like God's plan. And maybe for the kingdom, my role is to be like a resource partner, like to just invest in kingdom ministries. But God had a different plan because on that second company I was selling, or it's not selling, I was, my wife and I got involved in a church called Life Church. Like we'd moved to a part of town and we wanted to get connected to a great church. Someone told us about this church called Life Church. Pastor Craig Rochelle started it. It was at that time 3 years old. We were just meeting in a building. It was like the most raw, awesome church experience I'd ever been a part of. We just see like God changing lives, and just every week it was just so rich and awesome. So I started playing keyboard on the worship team as a volunteer.
That's awesome.
And then when I sold the company, the article came out in the paper, and the pastor one of the pastors of the church saw the article and said, "Isn't that the guy that plays keyboard on the worship team?" Because they like to had my picture in the paper and all this, and anyway, and he wanted to go to lunch, and I thought initially he wanted to go to lunch to help me calculate what 10% was on the number he saw that we sold the company for in the paper. Of course, my wife and I are happy to give. That's not the issue. But instead, he said, "Have you ever considered using what you're learning in business, what you've experienced in business, in the church?" Like,
So interesting.
and so I had never considered it, but that lunch changed my life because it put something inside of me that I had no idea that God could use the way that I think and my giftings in the church. Like, I didn't even know it was possible. And over the course of the next year, I volunteered 10, 20, 30 hours, 40 hours a week in serving in other ways in the church, because our church was very low tech. But I had all this understanding of technology. So anyway, that's how God led me then on staff of the church in 2001. And then I've been on staff for, I don't know, was it 24 years now?
Wow.
And so, and then looking back on all of that, sorry, I gave you a long story,
I like
but
it.
looking back on it, I could see like each of those steps in the journey, even though they don't seem like they're all connected together, God used all of that to kind of shape my experiences and my creativity, my ideas to do what we do today. So things like doing church online, like online community for church, we started that in 2006. That was inspired by the pro wrestling website. I mean, I saw this online community and I was like, this is like a thriving community. Like, technology can be used to bring people together.
Wow.
And not just like to create actual community, not just to convey information or content or all that, but to be, and this predated social media and the ways that we see technology, trying to connect us to each other. And so things like the Bible app and those things all are like a product of all these unique experiences that God gave me. And so anyway, but the short answer is,
So cool.
it's not confidence in me, but when you see God do things over and over again in your life, you have confidence in Him. And what I've learned is sometimes and many times God seems to ask me to do unexpected things. But when He does that, I mean, my responsibility is just to step into it. I don't have the answers. I don't know what it's going to turn into. Never would have ever expected that we'd be celebrating a milestone of 1 billion devices installing the Bible app. I mean, not then, not right after then, not a year later. I mean, it's been one of these journeys that you just kind of take it step by step.
I love that idea that the Lord uses every experience that we have, even
the ones you regret.
Yeah.
He'll actually use those too.
I'm curious in terms of the website failing, because I think for me, I really struggle, and I've found more and more as I take on responsibility in things in life and as an adult, that the things that I find most difficult to see the Lord using are my own failures. And really where I thought He was moving and where I thought He had gifted me, seeing that not come to fruition is difficult for me. So I guess I'm curious, how the Lord used that in your story, that the failure of the website, but also I guess just what would you say to me and anyone who's kind of experiencing failure and feeling like they're not maybe, I don't know, God's can't really use the failure?
Sure. Well, I think it's first of all, it's understandable. None of us love failing. At least I haven't found a person that loves failing. We like to take the fruit of what we do and hope that we see fruit from it, right? And that we see it quickly sometimes. I can just only share from the experience I have, which is, I've lived life a little bit longer, than you have, just a tiny bit. I still feel like I'm young, but I'm reminded all the time that I'm not. But you have the benefit of looking back and seeing what God does over a longer period of time. And that has always been helpful. But the example of the website is something that in retrospect, it's really easy to see how we were positioned with our eyes open to the opportunity of the App Store and the opportunity to move
Right.
quickly to have it in the App Store
Interesting.
only because we did that website that failed.
Wow.
Like the hurdle of getting permission to use the Bible text. Like if we were standing there when Steve Jobs announced that there's going to be this App Store and all that, and we had to go out and figure out how to get permission to use the Bible text and do all of that in that 3-month window of time, wouldn't have happened. But like we were positioned because of the journey God took us on. But that didn't mean that it felt good in the moment, because in the moment you're asking all the same questions like, God, did we miss you
Right.
on this? Why did you help us overcome so many obstacles only to
Right.
have it not work? And so I think there's just a trust that comes in the same way that we kind of blindly sometimes take steps of faith where God calls us to step, even though we don't know what the step is going to yield. I think there's times where we have to kind of approach our failures in the same way. It's like, God, I got to trust that you're going to use this, and it doesn't mean that, I mean, we're also humans. And so sometimes we do get it wrong. And sometimes our motivation isn't pure. And sometimes there's times we're stepping outside of God's will. But God has such grace that even when we do that, he oftentimes even uses those parts of our story and journey to kind of equip us to help someone else, equip us to learn something that we can apply if we just like surrender all of it to him. So that's why I say it's not just the highlights that he uses, it's also the regrets, the things that you're like, man, I made all these mistakes, and what could God possibly do with that terrible time of my life that I made those mistakes? It's like he can do a lot, because there's a lot of people that are getting ready to make those same mistakes, or it could be that he shaped something in you that gives you the ability to see something that others can't see. So there's a lot of trust that comes in that, though. Like you can't, like, to answer your questions, like you can't always see what the failure is going to do, and you can't always see what the learnings from the failure are going to do when you're standing in the failure or standing at that point. But I can just tell you with confidence that I've seen God do it over and over again, not just in my life, but in others. And so anyway, so yeah, I do think that acknowledging failure is something that a lot of people don't like to do. But I find that the learnings from failure oftentimes only come when you acknowledge it. What I mean by that is like the fear of failing. A lot of people talk about the fear of failure as this fear that keeps you from taking a step into something because you're afraid I might fail. Like, oh, I don't want to start a business because I might fail, or I don't want this. I find for a lot of people that the fear of failure is the fear that keeps you from stopping something that's not working, more than it is that keeps you from starting something.
That's so interesting.
Because when you stop it is when you actually have to acknowledge that it failed, because you can keep pretending that it hasn't, up until that point. But it's only after that you acknowledge it or say, okay, this failed, that you can go deep enough into understanding why it failed. Because if you just kind of feel like it just keeps needing to be tweaked or changed or just modified a little bit, you won't ever go down and say, what if the actual whole idea is wrong? Like the whole approach, and you're not willing to go there sometimes if you're not willing to acknowledge failure. So I don't know. I mean, I'm far from perfect. There's times that I'm like, hold on to something too long or wait too long. But I find that when I'm quick to kind of acknowledge when something doesn't work and humble enough to acknowledge it, because our pride is sometimes the thing that keeps us from, being willing to do that. I learn so much more when I'm willing to be that open.
Yeah, my dad always used to say to us as kids, you either win or you learn.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's no losing. That's only a perspective.
Sure.
And I thought that just reminded me of that.
Yeah.
He used to say that. I always hated him saying that. But I realize now that he's right.
Yeah.
When I just took a little bit of growing up.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so cool. Through you sharing your story, I'm just hearing like you're just consistently obedient to the voice of God, like all throughout your journey. And even him calling you to do business when everyone around you was like questioning you and being like, why are you doing that when you should do this, you should do that? Things that didn't make sense to the world but made sense to you because you were listening to God. How did you foster that relationship with God at that time where you knew that it was his voice that was calling you to do this thing? And how can you encourage our viewers, our listeners who are wanting to know themselves, how can I deepen my relationship with God to know where he's telling me to go?
Yeah, I think first I want to say it sounds like I consistently was obedient all the time because I get to tell the story.
Yeah.
The reality is sometimes I was slow,
Mm.
and wasn't responding as quickly to what God's prompting as I should have. So I first want to say that because I don't want to paint the picture that it's just been constant, consistent obedience.
Mm.
Because that's the truth. The answer to your question though is it's like any relationship, like it is fostered through communication and consistency. And I think kind of building a relationship with God is just like any other relationship. And the way that you build relationships, it's like presence, consistency, conversation, which to some people might sound unusual, but unless you've experienced it, and then just trying to be in tune with the Spirit, which can happen through His Word, through actual, reading Scripture is like such an awesome way to hear God's voice that I think too many people overlook because they don't realize it's there to speak to them today. And then I think, for me, it's sort of probably more through what I would say is like informal prayer, time, not like formal prayer, like let's all pray, but more like prayer in the shower or conversation, in different contexts. I feel like that's where God speaks to me. Sometimes it's through worship, because I'm on staff at a church. I think it's more about private worship for me sometimes. I don't know why, but like in the public context, which I love worship, because it's related to my job. I get distracted looking at the things that need to improve or the things that might be distracting others, and so I'm distracted. So it's different, but sorry, keep hitting the microphone. But it happens in these moments. And so, like, even the coming on staff of the church, so the initial lunch conversation, the pastor, his name's Jerry Hurley, he asked me if I've ever considered coming on staff of the church. I said no. He said, "Well, would you consider it?" I said no, because I love my church, and I just thought if it became my job that it wouldn't be the same. And it was kind of a selfish reply, but that was like what was going through my head. So it took a year before I really felt clearly that God was saying, I want you to step out of this entrepreneurial space and step on staff at the church. So it wasn't like, now it culminated into a moment where I remember exactly kind of the moment where I felt like God said, this is what I want you to do. But it was a conversation before it was a moment. And it was a process, but when I reached that moment, then there was clarity and it was clear. It wasn't the audible voice of God. Like I didn't hear it like in that level. Most of the time it's not audible like that, but it's clear. And I just at that point knew. And once I get to that level of, of conviction about it, then it's actually very easy at that point, because then you're like too many times in my life I know when that's true that I just have to step into it, and doesn't matter the cost, doesn't matter the consequence, doesn't matter all those things, because you're operating out of a sense of confidence in God's calling and direction. So in that particular case, what happened too is I came back to the pastor and said, look, I've been volunteering, but I really feel like I'm supposed to come on staff like we talked about a year ago. Is that still a possibility? And they said, of course. The next week, I got offered an opportunity from a local venture capitalist that had a company that they had funded, and they wanted me to come run it, and they were going to offer me almost like the perfect scenario for what I would have wanted to do. Was the next week. And it was almost so clear that it made me even more confident, not less, because I was like, this is clear because of this. I have normally this would have been the most attractive thing that I would have jumped into, but because I know this is where God called me to be, and because I'm going to turn this down, like it was even made me more confident in God's calling. And sometimes what happens also is you also face opposition, you know, like, and that's also confirming. Like the moment you step into God's calling, like immediately there's some kind of spiritual attack or there's something that is so clear, but then it does the opposite in me because it just tells me that means we're making the right decision. Like that means that it's actually true. So anyway, but the short answer to your questions, it's an ongoing conversation. It's prayer. It's His Word, and I wish that it was like go and I go and do and I do. It's not always that quick, and I'm embarrassed sometimes when it's not. But I do think if you have the right posture, like God, where do you want me to go today? Help me to have eyes to see the things you want me to see today, or the people you want me to see today.
That's really
And
good.
if I'm disciplined enough to start my day that way, it's amazing what He does. But unfortunately, sometimes I'm not. But when I do, and consistently do, it's amazing.
Thank you. That was awesome. And also it reminds me of the quote where it's like, God doesn't call the qualified, but He qualifies the called. And it's like,
That's right.
all we have to do is listen. And that won't always look like a, yes,
Sure.
I'm running. We try not to have a Jonah moment, but
Yeah,
God,
yeah.
we see that God could use Jonah, so He can use all of us.
Absolutely. And He, you know, most people I talk to, they feel a bit inadequate, right, to do what God's called them to do, and that's usually the hesitation that they have,
Yeah.
right? They say, God could use someone else. I'd heard someone, it's been quite a while, but they talked about the Hebrew word, and I'm not a Hebrew scholar. I wish I was a Hebrew or Greek scholar, but they had this word for humility that's oftentimes translated as humility, called anava. And I might be pronouncing it wrong. So if I am, just somebody can fix it. But one of the other ways that word, besides humility, is defined is to occupy your God-given space, the word anava.
Wow.
And a lot of times when we think about humility, we oftentimes think about not exceeding the boundaries of our space, like being less than, but not being more than. That's sort of like a posture. But that definition, that Jewish definition of that word, is really interesting if you think about it. It's like, no, it's to occupy your God-given space, not more and not less, but to step into that space and occupy it. And so I teach that to all of our new team members, new staff that join our team, because it's like, look, God's got a space for you, and that space will change over time. Like He's called you to something today and may call you to more, may call you to something different, but you have a responsibility to occupy it, you know, to fully
so good.
embrace it, and He will equip you and has equipped you probably more than you realize, but will equip you to do the thing that He's called you to do. But you still have to kind of embrace it, and in shirking away from it, or you know, or trying to say no, and whether it's real humility or false humility or whatever it might be, but just trying to say no, someone else can do it. You know, He's purposed that for you, and if you're not occupying it, He will ultimately use someone else, but He wanted to use you. And then the other problem people have is they always want someone else's space.
Wow.
You know, they start thinking like, man, but if I was going to do something significant for the kingdom, I would be able to do something like Zach does. Because Zach, you know, he's studying to be a youth pastor, is a youth pastor, and studying theology and all things. And that sounds like what a real, like, that's a big space. I want his space.
Yeah.
And it's just not, that's also a lie, you know. And whatever God's called you to is the highest calling.
Wow.
There's not a higher calling. Like Billy Graham's calling isn't higher, or wasn't higher.
That's so good.
Yeah, my calling's not higher.
Wow.
So our job is just to be where God calls us and to do what God calls us to do, and we have nothing else to worry about. Like that's really the focus.
We were chatting before about how you've got there's a Bible month coming up, the month of November. I guess, like, how does that fit into what the Lord is
Sure.
calling you into right now? And how are you responding to that? And maybe, do you feel inadequate in what the Lord is calling you to right now?
Well,
Yeah, I'll start with the last part of the question. Um, I always feel inadequate at some level. Um, I mean, there's so many times where I feel like same thing I was just saying, and just to encourage people, maybe it doesn't matter what I've been a part of or seen. There's still many days where it's like I feel like God, there's got to be somebody better than me to do this, and I have to kind of remind myself, yeah,
Wow.
but God's called me to do it, so I need to step into it. Um, to answer your question, there's so many amazing things happening right now. It's like the most exciting time. Um, I've been doing the Bible app now for 17 and a half years since the app, launched,
wow.
which is a long time. It's probably longer than like some people are old that are listening to this, um, which makes me feel really old. But normally on something like that, you would think 17 and a half years in, you would probably have seen the peak.
Mm.
Because like a lot of things, they grow, but they have kind of their season and all that. But the most engagement we've ever seen in the Bible is happening like right now,
Wow.
Praise the Lord.
like last week, like not like right
Wow.
now,
Wow. Wow.
like last month was the biggest month ever for Bible engagement on the YouVersion
That's
Bible app,
amazing.
and I think the last like 8 or 9 weekends have been the highest days of like the top 15 days or something that happened in the last couple of months, and so it's like a story of what God's doing right now, and it's super exciting because it's a global story. Like you see it
Mm.
happening here in the UK, where people are turning up to church
That's right.
and like ways that no one's like seen in years. There's a hunger for the Bible that's happening. We see it digitally, but it's also in print Bibles. I mean, print Bible sales are through the roof, and a lot of them are from Gen Z and
Yeah.
people that are much younger that people presumed wouldn't be interested, in the Bible. But that's so exciting because there's like a hunger. I feel like what we see happening with AI there's a lot of exciting things that are happening with AI, but
Mm.
at the same time, like there's a generation, your generation and my children who are growing up they don't know any differently than to like question the truth of everything that they see.
Yeah.
Like just by default, like, is this even real? Is this true? We never really had to do that when we were growing up. Like if you used to be able to say, I saw it with my own eye, so I know it was true. And today you can't like say that, right? Because there's so much content. And my son, who's 17, he's like actually really good at discerning anything that's been created by AI. Like he has an AI job. He can like, yeah, Dad, that's AI, that's AI. But for a lot of people, you can't. And in regardless, we have this, so we're inundated with so much content that is not true. So the byproduct of that, though, is a really good thing, which is that people are searching for something that's true, right?
That's right.
And so what's awesome about this time is it's like sort of built for the Bible, this moment,
Whoa.
because you say, I've got something in the Bible that is, I mean, it's been passed down from generation to generation from thousands of years, carefully translated, as we were just talking about earlier. And it's unique. There's nothing like it in its category. Even if you're not a believer, if you're just sort of like, what kind of source of truth can I trust? It existed before all this time,
Right.
and it's the same. And like this month at the Museum of the Bible in the United States, the Dead Sea Scrolls are on display.
Wow.
And so you can actually look at the content on Dead Sea Scrolls, which is an artifact from thousands of years ago, and you can see that the words that we read in our Bible are consistent with what's on an
Wow.
artifact
That's
from
So cool.
thousands of
awesome.
years ago.
Wow.
And so generations have trusted this truth. So even if you don't talk about it from just even a spiritual context, but just simply from a source of truth, you realize that this is one of the reasons I think people are turning to the Bible in this time, is that they see it as sort of the antidote to the problem that they see happening kind of with culture and what's out there. And so I think it's an exciting time. And we are celebrating a milestone. of 1 billion devices. And I'm normally terrible about celebrating things. Quite honestly, like I just don't like, I mean, I like celebrations, but I don't like celebrating things that we're doing because it just feels like it's about us. And when we did 500 million, when it reached that milestone, I think we had a dinner with 30 people. That was our party to celebrate it, because we're just like on to the, like, there's more people that need it, and there's more people
Wow.
we need to reach.
Amen.
But I felt like at this point, given all that's happening globally, it would be amiss for us not to make this a data point that we celebrate to the world about the Bible, and
Yeah.
just say, look, and the Bible's alive. And and we're just one piece of evidence, along with all those things I just mentioned that are
Yeah.
happening and more. So we thought we want to just use the part of this milestone to get the attention of media, to get the attention of people that normally wouldn't pay attention to the Bible,
Yeah.
and say we want to draw attention to the Bible. So we declared November as Global Bible Month. And I say we declared it. We had to come up with something. So we just said, we're going to
That's
call the
awesome.
month this. So like in the US, Amazon Prime is celebrating Global Bible Month on Amazon
That
Prime
is
Video.
so-
And they're going to feature Bible videos on the home screen and
Amazing.
all this stuff. We've got Times Square that's lit up
No.
on the Bible on November 1st. And so it just,
That is
so
so
it happened.
cool.
And then you can see the Bible on the Sphere in Las Vegas.
Seriously?
The outside. Oh yeah, we got all kinds of
This is
exciting
amazing.
things in Brazil, and Christ the Redeemer, the statue. There's like projection mapping, on it. I didn't even know you could do that, but that's apparently happening.
wow.
And then and we have all these people taking what we're calling the 30-day Bible challenge in November to start reading the Bible for 30 days straight. So you might have tried everything else. Why not just try reading the Bible for 30 days? So you can use a print Bible, you can use the Bible app, Hallow, Glorify, all these other apps are doing it with us, and they're kind of challenging everybody to do 30
So
days
cool.
in the Bible. So it's just really designed to bring attention to the Bible. And on November 17th, we're doing a big event. We're doing it in our NBA arena in Oklahoma City.
No way.
It's a sold out event. We got like 14 or 15,000 people that are coming, and it's like a 3-hour celebration of the Bible that we're going to broadcast on TV and in the app, and
That is
and
awesome.
so it's going to be
cool.
fun. But we're doing it not to celebrate any milestone that we've achieved. We're doing it because we just want to celebrate the Bible. We want the whole world to know, about it. And so your question was, what's God showing me? Or I can't remember exactly how you phrased it, or what is he calling me to do today. I felt like this was something that God was leading us to do about this. It was maybe 9 months ago or 10 months ago, because we were just going to go by this milestone like any other, and it was going to be like 30 people in a dinner. And I said, no, I think this is supposed to be a moment for the Bible, like something that we can be a part of. And just to kind of encourage people that are wondering, like, all the doubt, like the first thing that went through my head was, that's probably going to cost a lot of money. Where are we going to get the money, to do that?
Yeah.
And I just began sharing this vision. I wasn't trying to raise money or anything. I just was like talking about it and just saying, man, I think we're supposed to have a moment for the Bible. And the team's like, isn't this going to be expensive? It's like, I know, but I just think we're supposed to have a moment for the Bible. I didn't know what all it entail. And I remember back in January, I literally received a phone call out of the blue from somebody, and they said, I heard what you said about creating a moment for the Bible, and we want to give you, it was a very large sum of money to help you do that, because I know that when it comes to the budget, you're going to be wanting to like pull back on some of these ideas, and I just think you're supposed to do it. And so God provided the resources before I even was thinking I wasn't really processing what we needed to do it. But we've seen God do that in our story over and over again, where he kind of brings the finances. I always know he brings his resources to his vision. And our job is just to really be in tune with what he's asking us to do. So that's right now, but obviously our focus is not on reaching 1 billion, but it's on well beyond that. Our vision is God's word, everyone, everywhere, every day. And so it's got 3 everys in it, which makes it basically impossible. But that's okay, right? Because that just means we're going to keep after it and keep pursuing it. And we want that. We want that for everyone globally. So So anyway, so that's what's right in front of me and what we're working on and what God's asking us to do right now.
Wow, praise the Lord.
Amazing.
So are you in?
I'm so in.
I'm in November.
Global Bible Month.
I'm there
We're
every
doing
day,
it.
30 days.
Every
That's
day.
right.
That's so inspiring.
It's good.
Wow, well, if that doesn't make you want to read the Bible, I don't know what is.
Yeah, come on now. Open them up.
Yeah, this is the time now more than ever to just get stuck in with the Word
Mm.
and to get to know Jesus. And he's living and breathing through this right here,
Amen.
which is so powerful. Well, thank you so much, Bobby, for coming on.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank
And
you,
you've
guys.
just fed us so much, and the Lord is using you.
Mm.
And his testament is tried and true. And
Mm.
we praise him for that. So we give all the glory to the Father. And good people of the way, get into this. November's the month. We're going to do it together. Zoe and I will be on it. Bobby will be on it. And we're just going to be connecting with Jesus. Let's press in. And I appreciate you watching. Put a little, is there a Bible emoji?
There's a cross emoji.
There's a cross emoji.
Maybe we should try get a Bible emoji.
That'd be good. We should work
That'd
on
be
that.
awesome. A
That'd be
Bible
really
emoji.
cool.
Maybe put like a book emoji in the
and then
in
a
the
cross.
comments and a cross. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, so we know it's
Specify.
yeah.
Both together.
Yeah.
I'm just getting studious in the comments. I appreciate you guys for joining us, and we will see you next time. We out.